The big question why I want to meet with you today is now that we know that there's a special election, I wanted an update again on the timeline of the superintendent search and how not having a board majority is going to potentially impact your ability to find somebody.
Well, the superintendent search, right now we've actually screened for the interviews. We're trying to put together a team that's going to be the interview panel according to what the board approved, that has teachers and other staff and administrators, a couple board members, as well as I believe 3 parents on there. Myself, I'll be just the mediator asking the questions. And we're looking at probably next week having the first round of interviews on that. And from that should be 1 or 2 candidates that are recommended for the 4 board members, and probably the following week, hopefully, to interview them for a second interview. And then we'll see with if any finalists are motioned and voted on by the board members. Obviously, they have to have 3 of the 4 board members have to agree. And looking at that probably by the end of April, hopefully. Now, if they have a 2-2 split, then we're probably having to go out again in May to see if there's any candidates out there that are qualified superintendency. So,
how many candidates do you have right now?
I believe we had 7, and we've narrowed that down considerably of who's actually going to be receiving interviews. And I really can't give you the number just because we haven't finalized that, and the board members don't even know what the final number is. Right. But it's less
than 10.
Yeah.
So what happens then, Steve, in this worst case scenario? Because you told me in the past that you're retiring. You got to go enjoy your life after education.
Yeah.
You're not going to be here for the fall. But there needs to be someone here running the district come November, or come the fall. But November is this special election.
Right.
What I just don't understand what happens if they cannot agree on a superintendent. They have to, right? Is that kind of the mindset? Is we have to put someone in charge?
A couple things potentially is one, if they don't agree, and I think we have a few qualified, and hopefully board members will look at them, see the qualifications. Hopefully they do well in the interview, and and then 1 or 2 of those are promoted into that second interview and selected. If for some reason that doesn't happen, or it's a split again, and they decide no, different ideologies and stuff, so that they can't come to an agreement, then my contract runs out on June 30th. And if we don't have a second round and find a qualified, then I'm not planning on retiring until the fall. So I don't know if they'll ask me to stick around for a few more months or 3 months or whatever in the same role as superintendent. That's the way it works for my contract is that runs out June 30th, but then how the contract was built, I get to go back in as assistant superintendent, back to the position I had, and kind of finish out before I retire. I might be persuaded for another month or 2 beyond what the date is I'm looking at, but eventually I am walking away and enjoying retirement. Now, that's going to be left, we'll see what's left. Whether they try to find somebody else, if that were the case, of interim for another year. I know we've had that in the past. I mean, years ago we had Mike Stewart come in for 1 year as an interim, so I don't know. But even then, they'd still have to decide a 3-1 vote at least, or a 4-0 vote of who they'd want to be interim after I leave. So yeah, it's kind of uncharted territory here. So
you're saying that you are potentially in the position where your contract could be extended so you could hold down the role in the event that it gets dragged out longer?
For a while, yes. But then again, they would have to decide, again, with the majority, if that's what they wanted to do, is to extend my contract for a few more months or 5 more months or whatever the case is.
until someone can be either put into the fifth seat or someone can be hired. So
Yes.
just touch on that, and I just want you to be honest here, Steve. Just the level of uncertainty, because there's layers to it that is brought forth by not having a board majority, not having a complete
Right.
board.
Right.
Just touch on it for me, and how it creates problems potentially.
Yeah, it does. What I'd say is that for the most part, it is, we're able to do business as normal in normal years, because I'd say that I know that the focus is some controversial things, and the board has a 2-2 split, or because we only had 3 board members present this last time, 2-1 or 1-2 votes. But for the most part, they do agree on day-to-day functions that we have to bring to the board. And it's just when you get into some controversial things, that's usually where the split is. That does create more accountability for us to show the purpose of these issues that are questionable sometimes, whether it's a contract or some other nature. Like we have the LCAP coming up that we have to approve, and the board has to approve that. There might be some items within that LCAP that some board members say, hold it, why are we going in that direction? It does require us to not take things for granted and to really delve into it, which is extra work, but at the same time, it makes us prove that it's a legitimate reason for having it and how it's going to benefit our students. So it's just what I'd say is the uncertainty is you can't walk in saying, oh, hey, we've done this 100 times and now it's going to be 101. No, you really have to be prepared.
So overall, your feel of the district right now is that it's trending in the right direction, or it's in a solid base despite everything else?
I think there's a lot of distractions from really the focus of where it should be. And it's not by everybody. I think that professionals, teachers, administrators, other staff that we have, I think, once they get through the 5 minutes of, hey, did you catch what happened on the news? Then they're back to doing their job and doing what's best for students. But it is a distraction, and it'd be nice to have the coverage of some of the great things we're doing, not just the distracting things that are happening. I'm hopeful that as superintendent, I do think that it's time to bring in somebody that has a vision to move forward in the next 2 or 3 years. And so I'm hopeful for that. I don't know what's going to happen in the special election in November, but I think that will help clarify the vision of this district moving forward. We have opportunities, whether it's funding opportunities, grant money and stuff like that, and we have a lot of excellent staff that work. So yeah, I always have hope. I mean, and that's what we have to give the kids too. It's got to give them hope.